Afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Can you let me know in the chat? Can you hear me okay? 1 2 1 2. Anyway, I thought I'd do this show today. I wanted to have a look at some of the transfers that we're linked with. I also wanted to have a look at some of the players that are looking to move, and players that were looking to maybe move out the club. I thought I'd go into a bit more detail on some of those players and do some comparisons. And also good to find out in the chat any guys that you're interested in that we maybe don't cover in this show. We're going to do about an hour. If you haven't liked and subscribed, please do. I'm going to go into quite a bit of detail and do comparisons on these players. I'm also going to do a lineup builder for next season. We can have a look at the formation. We can also have a look at some of the players that we might actually put in those positions. I think it's interesting to kind of look at what Slot might want to do next season. I think there's a lot of players that we have right now that might not make it into his first team next season. It's quite interesting, and there's a couple of links to players as well, which I'm surprised that could be going. And then there's a couple of players that we've got links to move out of the club, which I think you might be surprised. But I know about these links, and I'll go through them a little bit more in detail. It'd be quite interesting to find out how you feel about some players that are looking to move on. Just for example, I'm just going to throw that to the chat right now. Would you sell Keller for 20 plus million? Yes or no? Because he's come out and said that he's looking to move on. He doesn't see himself as a substitute goalkeeper anymore. He sees himself as a first team goalkeeper. And to be honest, I don't really blame him. But to a certain extent, he's only had one season, really, at the club where he's actually played football consistently. When he played over 20 games with Alisson injured. But what you have to look at as well is if Ali doesn't get injured, Keller doesn't play. So you have to kind of look at that scenario. He's 25 years old. He's played less than 40 games for Liverpool in his career, and we've had him since he was 16. You know, at the end of the day, I think it's time to move that guy on. There's a good chance we can get 20 million for him. We turned down a bid of 15 million last year from Nottingham Forest because we wanted more. So I think he will move on as well. Also, Nat Phillips is another player who's linked with a move away. We turned down 10 million last year because we wanted 15. I think he will move on as well. You know, there's quite a lot of people that could be moving on from the club. And what I'm going to do actually, I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to do a team of players that can leave. So let's have a look at this and see how you feel about this one. Okay, so this one is going to be, I know it says slot team, but actually we can change that. we can do a team of transfers out. And can everybody see that okay? Yeah. Okay, good. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to do transfers out. So first of all, we're going to get rid of some players. So we're going to do, how do you spell his name? It helps if I spell that right. Okay. Right. Can someone write in the chat how you spell Caoimhin Keller's name, please? That would be really good. But I'll put some other players in there while we're waiting. So we're going to put Matt Phillips in there. Okay, so we got Nat Phillips. Okay, so we're going to put Nat Phillips in there. And we're also going to move, I think, can't even find these players. It's Vandenberg. Okay, so it's Kell. Sorry, guys. And it's also, yeah, Reece Williams. I'm not even going to put down because he's not really a player that's actually in the team. I'm going to put down players that I think will get a good value for. There he is. Okay, so these are players that are all, I think, are all going to leave the club. Obviously we know about obviously we know about some players. Keller we can probably get 20 million for plus. Sepp Vandenberg we know has been listed for 20 million now. That's already been announced. Nat Phillips we want 15 million for. Kostas Tsimikas 100%. Oh God. Okay. Can someone write Tsimikas' second name in the chat, please? I should really know all of these names. I always spell his name wrong. I butcher his name all the time. Yeah, can someone write that? TSIM. TSIM. Brilliant. Tell you what would I do? What would I not do without you, chat? Okay. Right, okay. So basically, this is mad, by the way. I thought this would be fun doing it. But it's actually It's crazy. I know it's hard work. Sorry. uh, uh, we've literally got a back five um, of players that are all looking to move on. And we said we've got a small squad. We're going to have an even smaller squad. Okay, so we roughly get 20, 25 for Keller, and rightly so. He's been absolutely sensational this season. Kostas Tsimikas, I think he will go. Probably looking for 20 million for him. Nat Phillips, 10 to 15 million. Vandenberg, we already know. We're looking at 20 million. Joe Gomez is an interesting one, who's obviously come out and said that he's looking to move on because he wants first team football. He's going to probably command 30 million, I would say. And now we're looking at a midfield. So I can see a couple of names in midfield. I do agree. I do think Tyler Morton will move, or he might get another loan, but we'll put him in there anyway. I don't think Endo will go, but I am going to put a name in here, which is a bit controversial, but AC Milan have inquired about him and are willing to offer 30 million. I know it's a loss, but Paulo Fonseca is the new manager. He really wants Gravenberch in his team, and he's also looking to sign another player called Pedersen as a left back. I don't know who he is. He's from Germany. That's interesting because Christian's actually just wrote he'd sell Gravenberch. I don't think Gravenberch fits a slot system. However, Gravenberch could have an incredible Euros, and we all just go, okay, let's give him a chance. But for me, I think he was a really poor signing. I think the money can be invested into a really good defensive midfielder. Big up ends. You don't think he'll go, or you don't think he'll have a good Euros. So that's, I mean, that's pretty crazy that we've got a back five and two midfielders who we think could potentially move on. Okay, so now we're going to have a look at other players which are linked to leave Liverpool. This one just won't go away. Luis Diaz just won't go away. Another player who's also linked, which I do think will happen. And I know he's had a good season. I do know he's had a good season, but I do think he will be a player that will probably get moved on. I just think we have too many players who are sitting in that number 8, number 10 position. We just don't have the space for them, unfortunately. It's a really interesting one. I'm also going to throw another curveball in here as well, which I know this might kick off a few people, but the rumours really are going away, and it looks like Emilio, who's the guy who looks after Saudi, is really going after Salah again. It was brought up in an ESPN interview. I think it was 3 days ago, that there's lots of rumours that Saudi Arabia are going to come back in for Salah big. And I know they've said they're willing to wait, but I think that's just brinkmanship. And if they throw 100 million plus, I cannot see Edwards turning that much money down. It's another Coutinho-esque investment. But if you just look at the amount of players that are on this list already of transfers that could leave, it's a huge amount of money that we could recoup back into the club. Another one I'm going to put in here as well, and the reason I'm putting him in here is simply because he's all over the place. Like, honestly, there's so much information around Nunes now that he's doing interviews abroad. He's saying he's not happy. You know, he's being affected by social media. He's being affected by people in the stands. You know, do we really want a guy who's got issues with people on social media? Like, grow up and just delete your social media or get someone else to run it. Like, the fact that you're running your own social media account is just mental when you've got millions and millions and millions of followers who can write whatever they want at you. Like, I find that insane. I just don't think he's matured, unfortunately. You know, he's 24 going on 25. He's at a big club now. Start acting like it. For me, you know, if someone threw 70 million, I'd take it. I would take it. I don't see improvement. It's unfortunate. And I know there's the comparisons with Vinny Jr. and also Jude Bellingham this season. He scored 23 goals, all all up, and he's got 11 assists. Sorry, he's got 13 assists and 23 goals, exactly the same as Jude Bellingham and Vinicius Jr. So I do understand the comparison. Well, his numbers are good, but it's not the numbers which is the issue. It's the amount of misses and the amount of chances in big games, in big moments, which is destroying our season. Like, I'm going to give you a stat which blew me away, by the way. The last 10 games of the season, this is no word of a lie. The last 10 games of the season, we had 16 big chances and only 2 of them the goalkeeper saved. And that's the last 10 games of the season. And they were between Nunes and Diaz. So that's all they provided. The last 10 matches of the season, 16 big chances and only 2 of them the goalkeeper saved. That's how bad those 2 fell off at the end of the season. Like, they fell right off a cliff. Like, we had nothing from Nunes at the end of the season. And Diaz was he was running on empty. He was so tired. And that was a real problem. And if you're going to get the same every season, then how can you rely on these guys to push you over the line to win you a title, to get you to a final? They can't do that. They didn't get us to the final this season. Since we've had them, they've not got us to the final. they've not actually performed in major competitions. Like, they've not performed in major competitions. It was the kids that won us the final. It was Virgil van Dijk on his own that won us the Carabao Cup, and we got nothing last season. So are you really going to rely on them this season? Because the data proves that they're not reliable, both of them. So that's the issue there. Okay. So if we're looking at a squad in front of me, I'm just going to top this up on a calculator. It's really interesting because I think there's a huge amount of money we could rake back in to the club. So we're just going to put 2020 plus 10. I'm not going to be too greedy with some of these players. I'm really not going to be greedy with too many of these players. Okay, so if you add all of the players up, including Salah, by the way, I've roughly got about £350 million worth of business there. And heart of hearts, yeah, if you sold all of those players and replaced them with maybe 5, because you don't need to replace all of those players, are you trying to tell me that we'd really suffer? I know Salah's the big one. Salah's the big one, by the way. So even if we took Salah out of the equation, that's £250 million worth of signings, sales. Would you really miss all of those players? And you've got £250 million to replace another forward, another left winger. I don't think we need another left winger, by the way. I think if Diaz went, we don't need a left winger because we have 2 left wingers in Dominic Szoboszlai, and we also have Cody Gakpo. So I don't think we need a left winger. So we sell Diaz, and that's just pure profit that we can invest into another position. Yeah, I don't think we need Gravenberch because now we've got Harvey Elliott, who's performing at a very high level. And even if you didn't have Gravenberch, you've got Bobby Clark, who could come in and do just a good enough job as Gravenberch for me. And he's proven it. Like Bobby Clark's numbers when he played those 5 games during that season during that part of the season when we lost a lot of midfielders, his numbers were sensational. Like he got a goal and 2 assists in those 5 games. And he was a real performer, man of the match in one of those games. So I don't particularly miss him. I wouldn't miss him. I wouldn't miss Morton because he's not been there. I wouldn't miss Carvalho because he's not been there. I wouldn't miss Simicast because he's not been there. Same with Nat Phillips. Same with Van der Berg. Gomez has been a bit part player. He's played all over the pitch. Are you really worried about Gomez leaving when we've got Connor Bradley, who's ready to go? And it looks like Slot wants to play Connor Bradley next season. So that's not an issue. Like Gravenberch isn't an issue. You could put Bobby Clark in there. You can move Trent into midfield. You know, there's no issues there. Queven Keller, okay, yeah, but we've got Allison, who's been absolutely sensational, best goalkeeper in the world. And then you've got another player that's ready to come in now in Jaros, who's had a sensational season on loan at 2 clubs, last 2 seasons. He's a Czechoslovakian international now. He's 21 years old. He's ready to go. Like he's ready to come in and take the mantle as the second choice goalkeeper. And then if you're going to get a third choice goalkeeper, then we go and get maybe a Alex McCarthy from Southampton on a free. You know, his contract's about to expire. You know, I don't see huge problems with any of those players leaving apart from Salah. And Salah I put in there as just, you know, okay, really I put Salah in there because we're not going to sell anyone on the right. So I thought I'd put him in there as a potential because still not signed a new contract, and it's already been brought out that if any players are going to run their contracts into the last 12 months, they will be sold. no players are leaving on free transfers at Liverpool. It's already been talked about. So it's a really interesting one. And the interesting one about Van der Berg as well is that's now come out, that he hasn't got a buy-on clause or a sell-on clause or a buy-on clause with Mainz. That's not in the contract. So he comes back to the club and he's got a £20 million transfer value, which means anyone comes in and offers 20 million, he'll be able to go. And it looks like Brentford's interested. It looks like there's a couple of clubs that are interested. Also, Werder Bremen are interested in him. Wolfsburg, are interested in him. So he will find a club. We will make 20 million off him. He was signed for 4 million. It's Michael Edwards at his best. Absolutely at his best. You know, Kostas Tsimikas is going to get sold for 20, 25 million. It cost us 12 million. You know, this is how Edwards works. The other players, you might lose money on Nunes. You might lose money on Diaz. You might lose money on Gravenberch. They're not Edwards signings. Queven Keller, 16-year-old kid that came in on a free. In fact, I think he was like 250,000. We're going to get 20, 25 million from him. Pure money ball. Pure money ball. 100%. 100%. This is what's going to be back. And we should be excited for it. Reece Williams will go for about 2 million. Is what it is. Came from the youth team. He'll go. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm now going to do a couple of comparisons in players. There's a lot of players that we've been linked with, but these are the main ones which I feel are probably in the sphere of what Liverpool might look at. Okay. So the first people we're going to look at is William Pancho and Piero Inapache. It'd be interesting to find what you guys think of either signing. Okay, so Pancho is probably going to cost 50 million, and Inapache is probably going to cost 40 million, as in pounds. Okay, Inapache didn't play a huge amount last season. Inapache's been pretty good for the last 3 years. We didn't play a huge amount last season. Pancho really came on last season, and he was signed from the Belgium league the season before. And they're both Ecuadorian internationals. Really interesting that we're going to go down the Brighton route, but we're going to sign these players after they've, become stars. Yeah. Interesting thing, obviously, Inapache, he's a double winner. Won the Bundesliga, also won the Pokal Cup, I think it's called. So that's interesting. Pancho had a good season with Frankfurt. I think they finished 4th. I think they could be in the Champions League, but we're going to have a look at these in more detail. Both left footers, really, really important because that's what we're looking for. Pancho is 6'1", really strong, and likes to bring the ball at the back. He was obviously signed from Independiente, which is where a lot of the Ecuadorian players come from, and moved to Royal Antwerp, and then obviously Frankfurt. So he's had quite a jump. He played 33 games in the Bundesliga last season. Scored two goals as well. Scored 2 goals. And he had quite a solid Belgium run as well. 33 games, scored 1 goal, played a lot of minutes. You know, really the sweet spot of what we look for. You know, we look for 140 plus games under the belt for players, and that we also look at players who are about to move on to another big jump. I think Pancho's sensational, really commanding, somebody we would definitely look at. I'd like to see what you guys think about him. Endick has had a really poor season. I think he moved to AC Milan, was it? Or was it Inter Milan? I can't remember. He moved to Italy, I remember. I think William Pancho is a good player, and I understand why he's on our list. I really do. I think he's ready for the next step. I think 50 million is a lot. Roma, sorry, yeah. I knew he went there, went to Italy. Roma actually had a player that done better than Ndika. His name's Heisen. He's a 19-year-old Danish or Norwegian player who we are looking at as well, by the way. He was on loan from Juventus, Heisen. He's a guy who Juventus might try and throw in as a sweetener to get Timo Kupermeier from Atalanta, and I think it might work because they've only offered 40 million for Timo Kupermeier and they want 60, so they might throw Heisen in. Heisen looks like a real player, Juventus just have this incredible system of getting these kids in. Like, I don't know why we're not doing it, to be fair, but the amount of players that come through that Juventus youth team system, and they just make bags of money off them. This is the money ball. This is it. You get a good director of football who doesn't back down to the manager and just gets on with it. You'd be interesting. Okay, so we're now going to have a look at Apache. And this guy's really talented as well. He looks like a Premier League player to me. He really does. He looks like the type of player that could cut it at a big team. Really comfortable on the ball. Plays in so many different positions. He can play on the right. He can play on the left. He's a really good left back, and he can also play in midfield, which I think would be really interesting in a slot team as the wide midfielder. Obviously, moved from Independiente to an Argentine team for a bit, and then obviously made that move to Bayer Leverkusen and has done brilliant with them. He didn't play a huge amount last season. I'm trying to. I don't want to go into too much detail about him, but I don't think he played a huge amount of games last season for them. He's played 83 games in the Bundesliga, though. 3 goals, 3 assists. He's got experience in the Europa League, which is great. He's also played in a number of competitions, which is obviously all good stuff. And he's got 150 games under his belt, which is it's the sweet spot. It's what we look for. And he's also got 31 caps for Ecuador, which is pretty incredible for a 22-year-old. And Pancho's got 10 caps and 2 goals for Ecuador as a 22-year-old. Ecuador have a really, really good amount of players. It'd be interesting to see them in a World Cup. I'm just going to have a look at how many games he played last season. Yeah, he didn't. I don't think he played a lot last season. 26 games he played last season. 1 goal, 1 assist. It's not bad actually. I thought it was less, but yeah, it's not too bad considering. He played, yeah, I think he played a lot of games as a left back, which is interesting. So out of those two, which one would you prefer? Because they look like it, they are the guys that we're looking to sign. One of those is coming. It looks odds on. Who would you rather have, Pancho or Hinapache? If you can put it in the chat, that'd be good. Next up, we're going to have a look at a couple of other players that we're linked with, heavily linked with. Yeah, I know we've scouted. I know we've scouted some of these players. Morello, we're not going to go for Morello. They want too much money for him. Scalvini, we're not going to go for Scalvini because Atalanta are not willing to sell that guy. They're going to lose a couple of players this season. They're going to lose Timo Cooper-Mears, and they're probably going to lose Edison, which is their midfield. And I think they're also going to lose another player in their defence, which isn't Scalvini. I think is interesting with Atalanta. It's kind of what happens with teams that go and win a competition, like a European competition. They get raided, and it's weird because like they've just won a European competition, but they will get raided. There'll be a lot of players that will leave that club. It happened with Napoli. It happened with Eintracht Frankfurt when they won. It happened with Feyenoord when they got to a European final. It happened with Roma. Like it's a weird situation, but that's what happens. They'll get raided. I agree with you. I absolutely agree with you. If we ended up with Hinapache and Edison, I'd be absolutely buzzing. I really would. I think Hinapache tips it for me, and the reason why is he's played in European competitions. He's played in finals. I think he's got that extra experience. He's also played for a Bayer Leverkusen team before they had Alonso. So he's done a bit of both with a couple of managers. I think he's the one that we could get as well. And I think we could get him for about 40 million. I also think that if we threw in Callum Chambers, not Callum Chambers, who's the guy we've got? Luke Chambers, not Callum Chambers, sorry. I think if we threw in Luke Chambers on loan, I think we could snag him. I do. I really do. And if you look at it, and if you're looking at Hinapache and Edison for what, less than 80 million? I mean, that's brilliant. Both internationals, both one's 22, one's 24. I really think like what's that? Hinapache look better when pulled out wide. Yeah, he does. 100%. He does have a bit of nasty about him, and I really think that's missing out of Liverpool. I think that's been missing out of Liverpool for quite a few years now. We've been signing too many players that haven't got that nastiness. Like that's what I loved about Ginny. That's what I loved about Bobby. That's what I loved about Mane. They had a bit of bite. Like you know, when was it? When do we see reducers going in anymore? Like, do you remember when we used to play Milner, and the first thing you do is get a yellow card and just clean someone out, and then the game's won. the game's won off that one tackle, because the whole atmosphere, just the way we play, has just really elevated to another level, because you've just had your man just smash someone and kick him up in the air and take a yellow card just to let him know, look, I'm here. You know, Millie used to do that all the time. Like, and what was so good about him is, like, the player would have him on toast, and you know that he would, but Milner would just clean him out, and the player wouldn't want to know then, because he's like, I'm not getting injured, 100%. Okay, so let's have a look at comparison on these two guys. If you're asking me who I'd rather have Fofana. And the reason why I'd rather have Fofana is, I'll go into a bit more detail. But Ederson's kind of burst onto the scene last 2 seasons. He plays centre mid, attacking mid, and DM. Really interesting. Bit of a journeyman, to be fair. Moved over quite a few clubs. He's valued at 40 billion. 24 years old. As you can tell, he's been around. Had a great season with Salernitana, and then obviously got his move to Atalanta and had 2 good seasons with Atalanta. He's played 85 games in the Serie A now. He's got loads of experience, 76 games in the Serie A in Brazil. So he played for Corinthians, Fortaleza and Cruzeiro. He's got European, Europa League experience, obviously Italian Cup. He's done quite a bit. He's just been called up to the Brazil squad, so he will get his cap soon. But he's kind of gone under the radar for a while. And the reason why I think we're looking at him, because I think his game against us, he just completely destroyed our midfield. Like, he's a really powerful, aggressive midfielder who also scores quite a few goals. Like, he got 9 goals in the Serie A as a defensive midfielder. He scored 7 last season, by the way, and 3 assists. He scored 7 goals last season. Like, you're looking at a defensive midfielder that can hit you 7 goals in a season. I mean, that's brilliant, and none of them are penalties. I think, and you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Red and white Yank. I think we could get him because of Hughes. Like, I think we could snare him because of Hughes. The only problem I have with us being able to get Ederson is if they sell Timo Cooper-Mayers, they lose their 2 midfielders, and I don't think they will sell both. So if Juventus don't get the Cooper-Mayers deal done, Ederson might go. If Juventus get the Cooper-Mayers deal done, Ederson might be frozen out for another year, which is interesting. So that's the only stumbling block. But we might be able to get him and maybe send the player the opposite direction on loan, maybe. I don't know. It's an interesting one. Next one is Yusuf Fofana. Look, I don't really understand the use of Fofana, how this guy hasn't moved to a big club. I really don't. Like, he's been consistent. He's a standout player in France, standout player at Monaco. He's the captain for their club. He's been a great player for a long time. I don't understand why he hasn't gone to PSG. Like, I don't understand how he's not made the move. It's an interesting one. I don't know. Like, he doesn't get injured either. There's not really a reason why. He's the guy I'd have. Um, so he plays in centre midfield. He also played on the right. He also plays as a DM. He's now moved into more of a DM position now at Monaco. I mean, he's still young. He's 25. He's been at Monaco for a couple of years now. Moved from Strasbourg on a free transfer. He played 173 games, 9 goals, 16 assists. He's a really good player. Loads of experience. 17 caps for France, 3 goals. He's a really, really good player who we could get for 25 million. I kid you not. 25 million he'll be available for. I just think you bin Gravenberch and you get him. He is absolutely sensational in every single department. There's nothing bad about him. There's no negatives. Doesn't get injured, doesn't get booked. He's a captain. It's just a no-brainer. Absolute no-brainer. He really is. Like, I just can't understand why he's not been signed. It's bonkers. But he the thing about it as well, and I'll ask the chat this, I can guarantee he's been on the committee's list. I can guarantee that Edwards has been looking at him for a long time. He would have been on our list before he went to Monaco, like 100%. And he's probably like 4th or 5th or maybe even 6th on the list. And it's been a case of Klopp never got number 1, Klopp never got number 2, and then Klopp just didn't want anyone. And the committee are probably like, you got Fofana here, mate. He's 3rd on your list or 4th on the list. Look at the data. Like, and he's just gone, nah, I don't want anyone now because I can't get Tchouameni or I can't get Jude Bellingham. And he's just gone, oh, I don't want any. Or can't get Caicedo. And he's just like bin them all off. And you're just like, who do you want then? Oh, we'll get Endo. Yusuf Fofana's there. He's there. Like, Crystal Palace have been looking at him for ages. Crystal Palace wanted him, but he wouldn't go to Crystal Palace because well, why would you go to Crystal Palace if you use Fofana? But 25 million, just get it done. Like, get it done. Get him in. Get rid of Gravenberch. Get rid of Tyler Morton. Tyler Morton's sale for 20 million will probably pay for Yusuf Fofana. Anyway, I don't need to speak more about him because I think we're all on the train as well. And that's the midfields that we're looking at. Next up, we're going to have a look at a couple of other players. And we're going to have a look at a couple of comparisons between maybe a Darwin Núñez replacement. Now, the interesting thing is, I didn't really compare him with a striker because there's a lot of players that we're linked with. I don't think any of them are capable. I don't think any of them are gettable. Like, Osimhen's been linked. I don't think we'd go for Victor Osimhen. I just don't. I think he's odds on to go to PSG. I know we're looking at the Aston Villa striker. I don't think we ain't gonna get him. I also don't think Jarrod Bowen is an option either. I think Jarrod Bowen's going to cost too much. He's just signed a new contract. He's the highest paid player at West Ham now. I think he's engaged to the owner's daughter as well, which is he's part of the family. I don't think that's going to happen. there's not a huge amount of strikers that we're linked with. The reason why I put Musiala in there is he's been linked before and he hasn't signed a new contract, and he could be looking at another move because they've just got a manager who's just got relegated with Burnley. Like there could be a huge exodus going out of Bayern Munich. There really could. You've also got to look at the fact that Kimmich is probably going to go to Barcelona. That's probably going to be odds on now. You're looking at Alphonso Davies, who's looking at a move to Real Madrid. There's a number of players that are going to be out of contract soon. That's really interesting, Stella, because I'm actually going to do a comparison with him right now. That was the name that I forgot. That's the name I forgot, and I'm going to do a comparison with Darwin Núñez now. So I'm gonna do Masala, and then I'm gonna do Sesko. I think Sesko could happen, and the reason why is Sesko's been on our committee's list as a striker for a long time, since his RB Salzburg days, and he's obviously made the Red Bull Group's move, where you go from Salzburg to Leipzig. Leipzig players are always on our list because they're originally on the committee's list before they go to Leipzig. We work in the same sphere. We use the same data analysis. Sesko is the guy. Sesko is the guy. You put Sesko in a Liverpool team under Slot and remove Darwin Núñez, you're going to get 30 goals a season because he's a perfect target man who works with his back to goal, which is the way Slot wants his team to play. He is absolutely sensational. Actually, I'm gonna put him in there now. Actually, I talked myself into it. Hang on, how did you spell it? I don't think Opender will come to us. I don't think they're going to sell that many players. Opender's only had one season as well, and he also plays wide. Okay, so Sesko's got a £55 million release clause. We know that, and we do like release clauses, and so do Leipzig. Okay, I mean, look at the size of him. I mean, he's about 6'5" as well, and he wins a lot of balls in the air, not like the other guy. I mean, Darwin Núñez would probably do well for Leipzig, so that could be something interesting. He went for 24 million, so if they can double that, they'd be happy. He's played 55 Bundesliga games, 21 goals, 7 assists. Like, he's just a brilliant player. He really is. Sorry, 31 games, 14 goals in the Bundesliga. This Bundesliga is the Salzburg one. Sorry, but he still did well for them with 21 goals in 55 games. I mean, he's a monster for Slovenia as well. Like, Slovenia have been pretty good since he's been in the team. 28 games, 11 goals. 28 games for a 22-year-old. Sorry, for a 20-year-old is just insane. Like, if that guy ends up at Man United, I would be so annoyed. Or Arsenal, I'd be so annoyed. Like, I really think he'd be perfect for us. I mean, you've watched him in the Champions League against some of the big boys. He's the real deal. He's 20 years old. Like, you know, if we're getting Hinapache, Fofana, and Sesko, that's a really good window. That's a really good window for us. You've got a 22-year-old, you've got a 25-year-old, solid, and then you've got a 20-year-old. All brilliant players. Like, yeah, Sesko's quick. He's quick as well. We don't need quick, though. We just need a guy that can stay on side and can finish the ball. Like, that's what we need. We need a guy that can stay on side and finish. And Sesko can do that. And I agree as well. Karim Konate is another one on the conveyor belt. I think what's interesting as well is our old assistant manager has just moved to Salzburg as the new manager. So we might well end up with the next Haaland because they're producing it. And if you think about it as well, so many of our players have come from Salzburg's not academy, but their scouting system. Mo Salah came from there, Naby Keita came from there, Mane came from there, and Dominic Szoboszlai came from there. It's a route that gets players into Europe and gets them onto the stage. And, the Red Bull Academy is just a brilliant, brilliant academy. I think Sesko's the one for me. Anyway, I spoke about him. We'll have a look at Nunes though, if you want. So 20 goals in 65 games, Premier League. It's not good enough. It's not good enough with the amount of chances. 11 assists, 57 games in the Portuguese league, 32 goals, 14 assists. Most of those goals were in his second season. His Champions League performance is good. It's and Europa League, they're good. They're good numbers. I can't deny that. They are really good numbers. And he started to do it for Uruguay as well. It's just, do you want to give him another year and for us to be in the same situation? That's the problem. And I don't think we can afford another year. Can we afford a year where maybe we don't get into the top four? Maybe we don't win a cup final and it ends up being a poor season for Slot under his first tenure at Liverpool. And it could have been down to Nunes and Diaz just not scoring the big chances. That's the problem. And does keeping Nunes and Diaz, change the way Salah plays? Does Salah put all of those 16 chances on a plate for Nunes and he doesn't score any of them? Can we afford it when you've got a 20-year-old Benjamin Sesko, 55 million release clause, ready to go to the next level, never injured, strong, finishes really well, not a flash in the pan, consecutive seasons of progression and getting better and better and scoring more goals. I think we go the opposite direction. I think we move for Sesko. I really do. Anyway, that's my thoughts on him. We're now going to look at another comparison. We're now going to look at these two guys. So obviously you're looking at on that sell list. It had Salah, but I do think we need a right winger with pace and skill. Not so much the capability to score you hundreds of goals, but to be able to create and be able to push the opposition back. And that's something which Slot would want with a right-sided player. Klopp wants assists and Klopp wants goals because he plays more as a forward, an inside forward. It's not how the Slot system works. So we're going to have a look at a couple of players that we've been linked with. I don't think Kudos is achievable. I think they'll want 80 million. Kudus's release clause doesn't kick in until next season. If Paqueta gets a ban, there's not a chance in the world they're going to sell Kudus because they're going to lose Paqueta for a year or two. I just think that one we could probably rule out, but we're going to have a look at his numbers anyway. Really interesting numbers with Kudus is he created the most chances out of any Premier League player this season, and he only played 33 games. Oh, he played 33 games. Okay, so he played quite a lot. He got 8 goals and he got 6 assists. I mean, the really interesting thing about him is you put him into a team where he's not managed by David Moyes. I think his numbers would be off the scale. Like, he just have so much more freedom to produce. Remember, he's in a Moyes team where they only get 30% of possession as maximum. Like, you put him in a Liverpool team, you've got 50, 60, 70% possession in games. Like, you know, most of the time between 60 and 70. Like, that's a huge amount of swing where he's going to have the ball more and going to be able to do more with the ball. He would be a brilliant signing. He's the guy we should have got. The committee said, "Can we sign Kudus?" And Klopp didn't want him. Klopp wanted to sign Cody Gakpo. That's just a fact. Like, wants a Gakpo, the committee wants a Kudus. That's just how it is. Like, you know, the committee wanted Kepren Thuram, and Klopp wanted Endo. It is what it is. Like, it's crazy. I do get that about the AFCON players. This one I could live with. He's a monster. We're also going to look at Bakayoko. He's a Belgium international now. I think he costs 40 plus million. I really do. A 34 million pound bid was rejected last season from Brentford. It was rejected at the last minute. Like, I genuinely thought he was going to sign, which was making me go a bit crazy because I thought we needed him. He's been really good. Like, PSV had a really, really good season. Like, they beat Slot's team to the title by 4 points, I think, maybe 6 points. 59 games, 17 goals, 14 assists. Obviously, this is the lower league, 57 games, 20 goals, 16 assists. Now Belgian international, 1 goal, 11 games. Really looking to kick on. I mean, you know, he came from Anderlecht youth on a free, and then just worked his way up through PSV's academy. I mean, his market value was 3 million when he went in. Now he's worth 40 million. They'll sell. They will sell. He's a 21-year-old now. Obviously, Kudus is 23. He obviously played for Ajax. he had a really good Europa League run as well with 6 goals, 17 goals in 65 games. The thing about Kudus, though, he plays everywhere, like attacking midfield, right winger, and he can also play up front. He's just very versatile. He's also really tall as well. He feels like a really strong player. Hard to get off the ball, silky dribbles. It's an interesting one. I mean, I do see that with the Bakayoko. I mean, he's pacey. He's a fast player. I don't know. Like, I'm not 100% sure about Dutch players. Well, not Dutch players, but players coming over from Holland. But we're looking at Kudus, who came over from Holland, and he played in a Ten Hag team, and he's hit the ground running and looked like a really good player in the Premier League. So it's hard to say if Bakayoko could do it or couldn't do it, because the guy we're comparing him with, Kudus, has. So I don't know. For me, I wouldn't sign either, because I'd sign a player in the next comparison that I'm gonna show you. But I just wanted to put those two people up there. I'm now going to talk about these two. And the reason why I'm going to talk about these two is, unbelievably, they will both be sold. They will both be sold. So Kvishka could go for 60 million. I'm not joking. There's rumours that he could go for 60 million. And Michael Elise has got a £55 million release clause in his contract. And that's a fact. So you have literally got Elise and Kvishka, who could both be sold and are both available for the right price. Like, that is mind-blowing. The amount of talent that can be signed for the right money. Like, Kvishka is just a phenomenal player. He's an anomaly. Like, what he can do is pretty insane. However, we don't need a left-sided player. We have a lot of left-sided players. However, the right side, Michael Elise is just a phenomenal player. Like, there is not many players, I think, can cross the ball as good as this guy. But Kvishka can find a man from anywhere. Like, he is a wonderful player as well. Both 22, 23, full internationals. Like, I mean, let's just have a look at Elise. I know Elise had an injury this season. I know that, but it was a one-off hamstring injury, and he got massively overplayed by Hodgson. And we also have to look at, like, 14 goals in 82 games in a Crystal Palace team with 22 assists. Like, like those numbers, 67 games in the Championship, 7 goals, 13 assists. I mean, he's the real deal. For me, he's the real deal. He's in the under-21 teams. I think he's been called up to the French squad now. I think he's been on the bench a couple of times. He's ready. He's ready for a big step up. I think Liverpool should give him it. I really, really do. He is sensational. I think he's got 16 GA in the last 10 games in the Premier League. I think he's finished on 10 goals, 6 assists this season. Like, you put a good manager in charge of Crystal Palace, and Elise just turns into a fireball. So can you imagine moving to Liverpool with the amount of possession and the amount of attacking threat we've got? Like, he could be the Salah replacement, but he would provide the Salah assists. And he'll score goals. He will score goals for fun, but he will provide an insane amount of assists. And we could get him for 55 million. Like, he's ready to go. Like that's the one. I know he's linked with Man United, but that is the one. Kvaratskhelia, I mean, we don't need to look at, like, he's an anomaly. They got for 15 million euros. That's mental. 68 games, 23 goals, 21 assists, just bonkers numbers. Champions League, he's been cooking as well. Georgia, he is just their main guy. 29 games, 15 goals. He's the main guy. He's the real deal. He does get injuries, but 60 million for him, 55 million for him. I'd take either one. Either one, I'm fine with. Honestly, either one, take him. Take my money. If he doesn't leave Crystal Palace, I'll be amazed. And if he doesn't leave Napoli, I will be amazed. They're both available. I thought I'd talk about them because I think they're both sensational players and they're young and they're ready to go, and they're the money ball. Sign them for 50 million, keep them for a couple of years, sell them for 100 million to Real Madrid or Barcelona or PSG. Done. That's how it works. I'm going to talk about these two as well because they've now come up recently. I know Klopp was in love with one of them. The other one is an interesting one, which I think will go to Real Madrid because I think he's playing us off. But Levi Colwill plays on the left, plays in the centre. He's a guy that we've looked at for a long time. If Chelsea need to sell players, I think he could be another one which might be able to go. He's just signed a new contract. He will cost 50 million. They won't sell him for less than 50 million. I think Quansah's better, but Colwill gives you the left. Quansah doesn't. It's an interesting one. I thought I'd talk about him quickly. I also think Yoro is a really interesting player as well. He's really young, but he's played a lot. He's right-sided though, but he can play on the left. I think he's a real talent. I think he's better than Konate, if you ask me, and I think he's the type of player who could be a Rafael Varane, who Real Madrid had for a number of years and was an incredible player for them. And he also did pretty well at PSG, to be fair. But I actually think he could be the next Rafael Varane for them. He's got 1 year left on his contract. You can get him for 40 million. He's going. He's already said goodbye. We can have a look at him in general. He's played 46 games, 2 goals. 46 games for an 18-year-old is just bonkers. Colwell's played 40 games. He's 21, is he? 21. Yeah, he gets injuries though, unfortunately, Colwill. He really does. He had a good season in the Championship as well, 29 games. You're looking at the sweet spot. He's played 135 games, 4 goals, 6 assists. He's the guy that the committee would look at because of the number of games he's played. He has got a few injuries. I think this guy, if he doesn't go to Real Madrid, will go to another big club. But I think he needs another year to play at a higher level for us to go. But with Yoro, do you sign him and do you sell Canate? And then you've got Virgil van Dijk in a Pache, Yoro, Quansah. That gives you 4. I don't know. I don't know. Colwell got dropped for the back end of the season, which is interesting. There's a player at Chelsea. I'm going to throw this one out there. There's a player at Chelsea who I would sign instead of Colwell, and we could get him. We could get him for 20 million, I think. And look, say it how it is, but I genuinely believe this guy would be a solid player for Liverpool in Trevor Chalobah. He plays all over the park, by the way. He can play left, he can play right, he can also play as a right back. He's also played as a DM. I think he's a really good player, and we could get him for 20 million. And I think that is a good signing. I do think that's a good signing. I do think that's a committee signing as well. Like, I think they would look at that. He's played 79 games in the Championship. He's played 58 games in the Premier League. 4 goals, 1 assist. He's got Champions League experience with goals. He's played in Liga, 29 games, 2 goals. I think he got called up for the England squad as well, but just didn't get in. He's got 266 games under his belt. He's 24. Like, he's only just turned 24 as well. I think we could get him for 20 million. He's tall. I mean, he's bigger than Yoro. I just think he's a really good player. Like, what does the chat think of that? Because we could get him for 20 million. I think he's the type of player that could go to like an AC Milan or a Roma or someone like that and have a really good career. Like, I just think he's solid. Like, I've never seen him have a really bad game. Like, I've never seen him have bad games. And the reason why Chelsea actually played well towards the end of the season is because Trevor Chalobah came back into the team under Poch and just shored things up at the back. He made things better for them. I don't know what you think, chat, because I know we're linked with loads of defenders, but that's a little left wing one, which I think, it's a little bit of a curveball, but I do think he could be on the committee's list as well as someone who's, Chelsea need to sell players. Chelsea need to get profit. He's a profit player because he came from their youth team. Anyway, I thought I'd mention him. And I thought what I'd do is I thought I'd finish off this stream. Great minds think alike. If you haven't liked and subscribed, please do, by the way. I appreciate it. And if you've got any comments, please write them in the comment section. I thought what we do is we'd have a look at this. This is kind of the slot system. I'm going to change this to slots team. And I'm going to start putting some players in place. Why isn't that working? That's not working. No. Edit that. Yeah, I can. Okay, so we're going to put what? Remove. Okay. Okay, so we're going to start putting some players into positions. I'm going to remove him. We're going to put interesting one with this guy. Sorry, is do we put Kanate in there, or do we put Kwanzaa in there? What do you think, chat? Because I would like to see Kwanzaa deputised for Virgil van Dijk in games. That's what I'd like to see. But if we did go for a Pancho or a Hinapache, I think he would be the deputy for Virgil van Dijk. So would you rather see Kwanzaa next to Van Dijk or Kanate? For me, I'd like him to start deputising for Virgil and being able to play in that position more. But we'll see. I'm going to put Kwanzaa there for the time being. I'm going to remove Gomez and I'm going to put Bradley there. And the reason why I'm going to put Bradley there is it's because Slot has said that he wants Bradley to be his first team right back. Like he's already said it, which is interesting. What we do with Trent, but we're going to have a look at this in a bit. I think Andy Robertson will stay, and I think he will stay next season and play more games. I think McAllister. I'm going to put Fofana in here just for the time being. Just so you can see what it looks like. I mean, this is pretty much the team that I think we'll go for. I think this will be the team next season. Well, this is the team that I want next season. This is like my dream team, okay? Right. And I know there's a player missing out. And I understand that. Actually, if we're gonna have my team that I want next season, then I might as well. then I might as well put everyone in there. Okay. What does that look like? What do you think of that? What do you think of that? So I've moved the players that were on the list of transfers. Okay, like obviously I want Salah where Elliott is. So if Salah doesn't get sold, then I play Salah where Elliott is. Okay, so that's what I do. Okay, but if Salah gets sold, then I would love Elliott to play more as a attacking midfielder, or even Dominic Szoboszlai play there and Cody Gakpo play in the Dom role. If Sesko doesn't play, then you can play Jota. You've got that flexibility. If Elise doesn't play, then you could play Ben Doak there, or you could play Kay Gordon there, or you could play Dom there. There's lots of flexibility there. If Fofana doesn't play, then you could play Endo. If McAllister doesn't play, then you can play Curtis Jones. If Quansah doesn't play, then you can play Kanate. If Bradley doesn't play, then you can play Trent Alexander-Arnold. If McAllister doesn't play, then you can play Trent. There's just so much flexibility. Hinapashe doesn't play, you can play Robbo. You know, if Virgil doesn't play, then obviously you can play Hinapashe there, or you could move Quansah over there. I just think there's loads of flexibility in that team. And all the players that we talked about leaving, if they all left, there's lots of others that are there to replace them. And you know, in all honesty, there's only 1, 2, 3, 4 players that are in that list there. Hinapashe's 50 million, 40 million. Elise's 55 million, Fofana's 25 million, and Sesko's 55 million. And with all the players that we could sell without Salah, that's 250 million. There's a huge amount of money that could come in the club. Even if we got in 150 million, we could sign all of those players. There's a lot. There's a lot to look at. Anyway, that's my show. FC transfers, incomings, outgoings. Hope you've enjoyed it. If you haven't liked or subscribed, please do. And I'll be doing another show in a couple of days, and we'll probably go into more detail about if we have signed anyone or anyone is going. And we can also look at tactics then. No, we don't need to sell Salah. You're absolutely right. We don't need to sell Salah. But they've come out and said that if players want to run down their contracts to 12 months, they will be sold. It's already been talked. It's already been said. Anyway, hope you have a lovely day. I'm K-Mac, out of here. Up the Reds.